Hey, Jason here. So this morning I was walking around the nursery and I came across this wild juniper right here. You can see those branches going in every direction. And for some reason it stood out to me. So I'm going to apply some wire to it and we're going to see if we can come up with some type of shape to this tree. So there's branches going every direction on this thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera a little closer so you guys can see what I'm doing on this tree. And I have a feeling this is, these are the types of trees that you might find in the garden. You might find these randomly growing in a garden center or just in a 1-gallon can, and there's just kind of multiple trunks, there's branches growing in random directions. So we're going to see if we can kind of organize this a little bit, find a structure that we can work off of, and once the structure is set, we can let the tree develop and hopefully turn into a really nice bonsai. Now when I was going through the nursery, there was a few things that I saw. I was walking past some trees and I saw this tree and I'm like, that's interesting. And the reason I thought it was interesting was because even though it's got these two multi-trunks right here, or these dual trunks right here, they are going the same direction. They're both curving this way. And sometimes that's hard to find. So because these two trunks are moving the same direction, it's going to give it a little bit of balance when we style it, as opposed to if they're going off into separate directions and they're fighting each other. These two trunks right here, that's not really a trunk, it's more of a branch, but these two branches here, the main trunk and this branch right here, since they're going together, are going to create a pretty nice balance, and they are going to work together when we wire them. So let's apply some wire. First I'm going to clean up, then we're going to apply some wire, and we're going to see what this can look like. Okay, here we go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start cutting some of these branches I know I don't need. These are the ones on the bottom. And these are small branches, and sometimes people struggle with, let me show you, these little guys right here. Sometimes people struggle with choosing these ones. They're like, should I keep them or not? Just because they're like, it's nice new growth. But really, if you've got a first branch that's thicker, all these little guys are just going to suck the energy away from the rest of the tree. And you're not going to use them anyways, because proportionally, you've got this thicker branch right here, and you've got these little things coming out here. It's just not going to do it. And also, you don't want to cover the trunk as well. All right, so now I'm going to clean up, and really all I'm doing is cleaning the stuff going on the bottom. You guys have seen me do this plenty of times, so we're just going to do the same thing again. And I think one of the coolest qualities about this tree is actually this branch right here, this side one right here. I think this is actually interesting, because what we can do is we can create an independent apex right there, an independent apex on this. We can create an independent apex just on this section here and blend it in with this guy over here, and it'll create kind of this cohesive arrangement. We'll still have this general triangle, but we'll have this little mini tree, I guess you could say, over right here to the side. Okay, so that side is really actually not that much cleaning. I've got this weird side branch right here. I'm just going to clean up, pull all this stuff off of it. And you notice I'm not cutting yet. I'm not cutting any of these branches yet. I'm just cleaning, because I have to decide how much we're going to need. I'm not exactly sure how much we're going to need yet, so we're going to just clean up. So I'm just cleaning up. And the reason I say that is just because I kind of want to see a nice structure on this tree. And let it fill in. This tree was really just sitting in the corner of the nursery. Sometimes they're just kind of left to grow, and sometimes that's where you get some cool trees, is if you forget about a tree in a way. We're still watering it, we're making sure that's staying alive and healthy, and we're still fertilizing them. But sometimes they just kind of grow on their own naturally, and you get some interesting shapes. Sometimes it has to do with how the tree wants to reach the sun, or the direction that the tree is sitting in relation to the sun. So maybe you've got stronger sides that are growing much quicker than others. Sometimes when you let the tree grow naturally without interference, you'll get some interesting movement and interesting growth just on its own. So around this time, a train came by, so I decided to cut the audio. So basically here, I'm just wiring the mini trunk here on the left side, and I'm just wiring out all the branches so that I can arrange them easily. So I'm just wiring all the branches, and I'm going to create a little apex of its own on that left side. And I'm going to clean as I go. Even though I cleaned at the beginning, you can still continue to clean as you're wiring, just to get rid of some foliage that's in the way. And that'll make it a lot easier to wire. So I'm just working up the tree on the left side. I'm cutting back foliage that's a little bit too thick and just kind of going up from the bottom up. And then just working from the bottom up. And here I'm tackling the big longer branch that's on the front of the tree. And then I'm also wiring the secondaries on that longer branch just so I can shape those as well and put them exactly where I want them. So right around here, I'm just wiring the apex, and I'm using a little bit of a thicker wire in order to manipulate the branch a little bit more if I need to. And I'm also wiring the finer branches just so I can get that crown looking exactly how I want it to. So I'm just basically wiring the finer branches, trying to get it so I can put some detail into the layers, especially at the apex. On the other trunk, it's got a decent apex already, so I just want to make sure that on the main trunk, I follow that same pattern. And there was a branch here that I felt was too long on the arrangement, so I decided to cut it, but I didn't cut the whole branch, so I decided to save half of it. And I think what it did is it let me fill out that section a little bit better. So there's still some more finer detail wiring up at the top. So I just used like a 1.5 wire to do those. And then I cleaned up some loose wire. After making that cut, I cleaned up some of the loose wire. And here, just trying to get the remaining branches wired up so I can go in and do the final setting of the branches. And you'll notice that I don't wire all the way to the end, so that way the foliage covers the tip of the wire. So when you're looking at the arrangement, you don't actually see wire at the ends of the foliage or at the ends of the branches. So over here, I'm just finishing the final detail wiring on the crown. There's two little branches that I need to take care of that are pretty important to actually creating that apex. You want to be able to, you don't want the branches sticking straight up, so you want to be able to at least point one up and then bend it down so you can use the actual tip of the branch as a side branch and then one of the smaller side branches on that branch as the actual apex. So I'm just cleaning up a little bit, using the shears, cutting some rogue branches, just getting it a little bit thinner. The foliage at the top was pretty thick, so I'm cutting the branches back a little bit just to contain the growth. That way it frees up a little bit of space, and that way the sun can penetrate the foliage a little bit better and get some healthier foliage that way. So here I'm arranging it. I'm trying to get that crown looking nice, and it's still a big mess. You can see there's a lot of thicker foliage which needs to be trimmed back. And here I'm manipulating the apex to see what angle looks the best for the branch and how I can get it to look the fullest. And a little trick you can do is you can twist it. You create a little twist on the top branch, and that twist will make it look like the apex is a little bit fuller, so it doesn't look like just one single branch sticking straight up. And then what you can do is you can trim back the leggier growth or the longer foliage that's still sticking out once you've defined exactly how tall you want the crown to be. Now I'm just going in, flattening the pads a little bit with my shears. And one of the problems with this tree was that the foliage was pretty, not too lush. It was a little bit leggy, so the foliage wasn't too dense. And I think it has to do with the fact that it was kind of left to be overgrown. So those branches weren't getting enough sunlight. But after doing some trimming here, what I'll do is I'll wait a while, and then the new flush of growth that will come out will actually be a lot more thick, a lot more full, and a lot more dense and compact. The Procumbens nana, if they're not getting that much light, tend to get that leggier, thinner foliage in those needles, and it doesn't look as compact and dense. I mean, if you've got a very healthy tree, you've basically got branches with very thick growth on it, which makes it great because it can make your tree look very nice. But this tree can definitely come back. All it needs is this trim and then just a little bit more care. And over here, I'm putting some thicker wire on that other branch, the side branch, because it's leaning a little bit to the left, and I'd like to move it up a little bit so it can join the other trunk and kind of create that balance and unite the arrangement. So here I'm basically just putting the final touches and trimming back the growth that's going down. Some of the pad layers were a little bit too tall, so I cut those back. And I always take a look at the front to make sure that everything looks good and that the proportions are correct. This part's my favorite part. You've got everything wired, and you can manipulate the branches because everything's wired, and it comes down to it just comes down to the shears and the tree, and you can get it looking exactly how you want it. So I'm all done wiring the tree. I had to do a couple unconventional things to make this tree kind of fill out. One of them was utilizing this branch over here. It's kind of coming out straight, and normally I'd remove that. But since I didn't have anything on this side, I had to bring that over. Maybe eventually I'll use this one right here to replace this one, but for now, I mean, it kind of works. I think it looks okay. Now also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but this branch right here actually comes down and curves back around to fill in this gap right here. Now that's definitely not something that you usually do. Unfortunately, I don't have a branch here in this area that's full enough to fill in this gap. So for now I'm going to use that. Eventually I'll cut it back right here and then use something, maybe this one or this one down up here, to fill in this area, and that'll kind of fill that section. So basically on this branch right here, I've got its own little apex, which I think is kind of cool. So I've got this one right here, and it's got the basic triangle shape. If you look at it from different views, you can see that it follows that triangle, and I create the whole pad layer on the back too. I've got a back branch right here, but it's missing something right here. So hopefully we'll get something in that spot we can fill in later. And then on this side of the tree, I think we got our layers separated out pretty nice. And then even on here, I've got it layered out. You know, I need something right in this area right there, but for the most part, it's all layered out. Everything's got its space, and it's got the nice triangles. So even from the back, it looks the same. I had to curl in one branch right here to bring it all the way in and come out so that it wasn't protruding too far out in the arrangement if you were to look at it from a bird's eye view. So it's right in there, triangle on the side, triangle on the back. On both of these trees, which are part of one tree, but on both of these branches, you can see that there's an apex. So this came out kind of nice. I'm pretty happy with it. It kind of has a kind of wild pinching feel to it, kind of a landscape feel to it. So I kind of like it. All right, so hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me style this tree. Next time you've got something that's a little bit wild and you're not sure what to do with it, man, this branch right here is just totally off the wall. Usually somebody's gonna do a first branch and just keep it as a normal pad layer. But in this case, we basically treated it as its own little trunk and created its own little apex and its own side branches and everything. And I think it blends well together with the whole arrangement. So next time you've got something that's a little bit wild and doesn't have the normal set of branches that you're looking for, sort of those ideal branches, try to style something different. You know, ultimately it is one arrangement and it works well together. So I'm pretty happy with this. So if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.